do not just study the subject for the syllabus, for just completing the subject, for marking a tick in your to do list, but study the subject for the subject itself. Today, we will discuss this. About me, I'm Prateek and I got a 97% in my 10th board exams without any coaching, tuition, or reference books. I went from an average student to the top of my entire grade without any external help, and I'll tell you how to do the same. Now, if you want any help from me, then you can join my program. It's really cheap and it will help you, I'm sure. Let's start. So, the point is that what many people do is that they just go to a subject, like read the book, and then try to study the subject just for the sake of syllabus itself, like just for getting the marks. It's like rather than taking interest in the subject, they just think of it as a tool through which they can get better marks. But that is just a flawed ideology or a flawed mindset. Just think about it. There's one person who is studying a subject for the subject, like for the actual interest that he has in the subject, while the other person studies the subject for the syllabus. Which person will get better grades? Now, it can be argued that the second person will get better because he's studying more of what is actually required. But the point is that the first person will absolutely crush the second guy. Why? Because the first person is actually interested in the subject. He's not studying for the sake of studying, he's studying just like for himself. He's not doing it just because, okay, syllabus is asking this or exam will have this. He's doing this because he actually wants to do it. Now, let me give you an example. So I think I've told this story on this channel. I was just sitting around and just like reading a formula in PNC, permutation and combination. Then I asked the teacher, why do we have this formula? She said, well, it's a theorem and that's why you have it. Then I said, like, is there any proof of this theorem? Of course, there are proofs to every theorem. She said, why do you need a proof? Just use this in the exam and done. And then there was this one guy sitting next to me who said, why do you need a proof? Like, just apply the theorem and done. And to be honest, I thought that this idea was so retarded. Like, rather than understanding the mechanics behind it, you try to just remember it. Again, this links to the concept of do not just remember formulas. About this also I've made a video. Point being that rather than actually trying to understand it, many people just go and try to learn it. Or they just go and try to do it for the sake of the exams. They just say that, okay, if I can do it for the exams, then the work will be done. Then I wouldn't have to study anymore. But just think about it. In science, generally, many things are related to the previous things. And in history, absolutely, everything that will happen in the future will be related to the thing that happened in the past. Then, in every subject, it can be said that one thing is related to the other, and we usually study the things which are in the past first, right? For example, in geography, tectonic plates, those are directly related to earthquakes. Now, you first study tectonic plates and then you study earthquakes so that you can actually understand the mechanics behind earthquake in limits and derivatives. You first study limits and then you study derivatives. It's not like they first teach you integrals, then derivatives, and then limits. Of course, because the flow of the subject is a unique one. It is not like you can study anything at any time and then done. Okay, once you have actually understood the subject, once you actually know what is there, then it will be easy. Then you can just study whatever you want because you already know how things are going. But the point is that for subjects, the previous thing is important. Now think about it. Let's say in this grade, you just remember the formula. Let's take the example of maths. Let's say you currently have to do completing the square, like the solution to a quadratic equation by completing the square. Right now, rather than understanding how it works and all, you just remember a method, like you move this there, then that there, and all. You just remember it, and then you can actually solve the problems. Now, the next section involves quadratic formula, which is directly like it is derived from the completing the square itself. Now, what will you do? Now, many people can say that, okay, I'll just remember the formula and done. But think of it on a massive scale. Let's say about physics. Now, in velocity part, like when the book was telling you about velocity, you didn't care about that. You just thought that, alright, whatever, I don't care. Then in the next section, there's acceleration. Now, simply you cannot just simply say that okay, I'll just learn it. There's no excuse now because acceleration and velocity are directly related. You cannot just understand acceleration without understanding velocity, and you cannot understand velocity without understanding displacement. The point being that things are related to the previous things. So, what will you even do of just remembering this one thing when you will have to apply this same thing on the next section or in the next topic? Point being that previous things are directly related to the next things. Similarly, in maths, like this thing in maths just goes on and on. If you do not understand lines and all, like slopes, lines, tangents, and all, then you cannot understand derivatives because derivatives are a direct application of tangent, right? That's the point. You cannot understand the next thing without understanding the current thing. Now, if you just remember the current thing, or if you just try to learn it for the syllabus, you just try to learn it that, okay, I'll learn it right now and then I'll forget it later. Then, of course, it won't work because you can learn it now, alright. You can solve questions by just learning it. You can just learn problems and then expect that the same problems come in the exam, of course. But the problem is that what will you do after this? You still have to study that subject. Now, many people can say that, okay, I'll just leave the subject. But again, the problem doesn't go away. Let's say, rather than taking science or rather than like having physics, chemistry, and all, you take commerce, alright? You now have BST, accounts, and all. Again, accounts is basically maths. You cannot just remember it and then it's done, of course, right? The point is that as much as you try to learn the subject or you just try to do the subject for the syllabus, as much as you try to be sneaky or whatever, like okay, I'll just trick the examiner into thinking that I did this or whatever, it will not work. It's that simple. Now, another thing is that what I believe is that many people say that I'll just study for the syllabus, and because of that, they do not even like take interest in the subject. They do not have any subject that they like. You know, if you let's say go to a random kid and ask, what is your favorite subject? They'll first think about it for 10 seconds and then say, oh yeah, I like English. You ask them one question from English and they'll be like, what is this question? Let's say you go to another kid and then you ask, what is your favorite subject? They say maths. You ask them one question from maths, or you ask why and ask deeper questions. Then they'll just say that, oh, because I think that this or whatever. Right? The point being that many students, or basically all of the students, do not have any one subject that they're actually interested in. Like, tell me, you're a student. Would you do you imagine yourself in the future publishing a paper in that subject? Let's say you are very interested in economics, then you can imagine yourself publishing a paper in economics. Let's say you're interested in maths. You can again imagine yourself publishing a paper. You can imagine doing a research, right? But if you are not interested in anything, you just want to you just want the school to end, then there is no point in studying anyways. Point is that rather than going all like half in, you just go half in and half out. You just try to study, but you actually do not study, but you still feel bad about not studying. Rather than doing that, either go all in or all out. That's the point. Either go all in or all out. Either study so much that you are literally like crying because of how much you are working hard, or you just don't study at all and focus your energy on something else, be it your fitness or be it your other goals like making money or an online business or whatever. The point is that you cannot just say that, okay, I'll go half in, I'll just try to study, but also I'll balance the other things. Because the balancing doesn't work. It never ever does balancing work. I can say that for you. Balancing is like trying to be average in all. You can be average in all. But for you to be best in one thing, you have to leave the other things. For you to be best in studying, you have to leave your gym or whatever. You have to leave everything else. Now, if you are already good in one thing, then you can stack up the other things. And that's the thing that I believe. Let's say alright, I am very good in studying. I can say that because of the grades and because of the performance. So now if I do gym, there wouldn't be a problem because I already know how to get good grades because I already know how to be good in studying. But let's say a person who is not good in studying and who is not good in fitness. Now, that person is starting both of these things at once. He goes for 2 hours in the gym and 3 hours for study. Will that work? Of course not, because when he's in the gym, he'll be thinking about the formulas. When he's in the studying mood and all, he'll be thinking about the gym. When he's eating the food and he has to decide something to watch on YouTube, there will be two options for him: either watch gym videos or watch studying videos. So his mind will always be in a confusion. But let's say a person who is very good in fitness, like he has already achieved his gym goal, he has six packs and everything. Now that person just tries to study. Will he be able to? Of course. Like, okay, he might lose 1 or 2% of his body, or okay, max to max, 5 or 10% of the body, or like all of the muscles and all that he has. But he can balance both things because he is already good in one thing. So the point is that first be good in one thing and then do the other thing. Like, okay, this might like seem like I'm going out of subject, but still, the point is that rather than trying to balance two things and then just being a sigma, going to the gym, then coming back and studying or whatever, first be good in one thing and then stack up the other things. That's very important. All right. Now, as for our main subject, which was do not just study for the syllabus, the point is again, if you start studying for the syllabus, then your future self wouldn't be happy because you wouldn't be able to understand whatever right now, so your future self wouldn't understand what they are teaching at that time, right? Now, your future self isn't happy. You aren't happy because you are not taking interest and you are just feeling like, what the fuck am I actually studying, right? So better it is to take interest in studying. Now, if you want to actually know like how to take interest in studying and how to actually like just read a subject and just be obsessed with it, then I highly recommend you to join my program. It's literally $5. Like, how much is $5? If you join it, I'll tell you exactly how to create a timetable, how to create a to-do list. I literally made a PDF on how to create a timetable, and then I'll tell you how to like actually read and memorize everything, because I use a technique which is very special. Like, yeah, I have never heard it anywhere, but I made it myself and it has actually given me results. Then I'll tell you how to study every subject specifically. Like, not just that, okay, just do this or just read and practice and all, but specific things to every subject. I'll tell you exactly those things. Alright? Now that's why I think that you should join the program. I'll see you in there. Till then you can watch the previous videos and like and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you later. Till then, work like a dog, live like a lion.